The crash site steamed, its scorched metal hull groaning under the cold breath of dawn. Smoke curled in lazy spirals over the charred earth of the Cordover expanse, a neutral zone recently opened for interstellar research. The diplomatic tents went up within hours, ringed with motion sensor fencing and guarded by both human and alien contingents. No one knew what had fallen from orbit, only that it wasn't one of theirs. Kalen Grady ducked under the perimeter tape, his boots sinking slightly into the ash-laced soil. He adjusted the strap on his field pack, eyes narrowing at the twisted wreckage. The command had called him in not because of his military background, but because he was fluent in 5 alien languages and had a knack for diffusing weird situations. Weird didn't begin to cover what sat 10 meters from the fence, panting in the dirt. It looked like a wolf pup, but not any Earth species. Its fur shimmered like molten silver, refracting the light in shifting patches. 4 eyes blinked independently, and its tail split halfway down into 2. No life forms had been detected on thermal scans during the crash, but there it was, alive, injured, and very much watching everyone.
Do we know where it came from? Kalen asked the nearest tech, a young woman adjusting the charge on the perimeter beacons. Ship's outer markings suggest Saracen design. No survivors. No data core intact. Just that thing. Kalen stepped closer to the fencing. The creature didn't growl, didn't move, just stared. A low, almost imperceptible whine vibrated from its throat. Not fearful, not aggressive. Something else. Has anyone approached it? The tech shook her head. One of the Saracen envoys tried. Got knocked flat by a sonic pulse from the pup's collar. Broke 2 ribs.
The collar's tech is unfamiliar. No one wants to be next. Kalen crouched, keeping his movements slow, non-threatening. Hey there, little one. You hurt. The pup tilted its head, then let out a low, stuttered bark. His paws shifted against the scorched earth. One hind leg didn't touch the ground. A voice crackled over Kalen's earpiece. Grady, we need you back at command. Something's changed. He stood, throwing one last look at the creature, then jogged back toward the mobile HQ. Inside, the air was tense. Commander Yelrin, a Valari diplomat with shimmering blue skin and a perpetually furrowed brow, stood beside a large holographic display. The wreckage pulsed in 3D above the table. The pup is not merely an animal, Yelrin said. It is a bonded guardian of the Saracen royal line. It would not have been aboard that vessel alone unless the royal it was guarding didn't make it, Kalen finished. Yelrin nodded. Which complicates everything. That creature is genetically encoded to protect and respond only to Saracen elite. It should be feral with grief. Dangerous. Yet it just
sits. Kalen folded his arms. You think it's waiting. We believe it is dying. The pup was transported to a containment dome by the 2nd day. No one could get within 3 meters without the collar activating. It didn't attack, but the sonic pulses were powerful enough to rupture eardrums. The medics couldn't sedate it. The collar absorbed energy-based attacks and dispersed them harmlessly. And still, it waited. By the 5th day, murmurs spread through the camp. The creature hadn't eaten. A tray of NutriPaste left near the barrier turned to sludge in the heat. The pup ignored it.
Kalen watched from the observation deck, his fingers curled tightly around a mug gone cold. He hated watching things die slowly. A soft knock pulled his attention. A woman stepped in, holding the hand of a child. The woman wore a blue jacket with a planetary research insignia. Her auburn hair was pulled into a loose braid, and worry creased her brow. Kalen? Amira Vance. This is my son, Wilder. Kalen looked down at the boy. Wilder couldn't have been more than 6. His eyes were wide and curious, his right arm in a cast. Mira cleared her throat.
We were relocated here after the flare storm hit our outpost. Command said you might know how to help with the pup. I've tried everything short of mimicking a Saracen royal's neural pattern. Nothing gets through to it. Wilder tugged on his mother's sleeve. Can I see the puppy? It's not a puppy, Mira said gently. It's an alien life form that doesn't want to be touched. I still want to see it. No one's allowed in the dome without clearance, Kalen said. Wilder looked up at him. Please. Later that afternoon, Kalen stood outside the containment dome with Mira and Wilder. The child pressed his face to the glass, peering at the wolf pup. The creature didn't react at first. Then it lifted its head. See? Wilder whispered. It's sad. It's dangerous, Mira replied, keeping her voice low. Don't get close to the barrier. The pup rose slowly, limping toward the dome wall. It stopped just short of the invisible line, the collar faintly glowing. Let me go in, Wilder said. No, Mira said, her voice firm. Kalen knelt beside him. Wilder, that creature has hurt people badly.
It doesn't mean to, but it doesn't know how to be around anyone right now. Maybe it just needs hugs. Kalen blinked. That's not how this works. But the pup didn't growl, didn't pulse the barrier, just stared at Wilder. Mira hesitated. I've seen this before. Wilder has a way of calming things. He helped a broken AI at the outpost start singing again. And he got a wild glider to land on his arm. That's not the same as an alien predator, Kalen said. It's not a predator, Wilder said. It's alone. Kalen opened his mouth, then closed it. They were out of options.
The pup was deteriorating. If this didn't work, nothing would. He contacted command. After a long argument and 3 override authorizations, they agreed to a controlled test. Wilder would enter the dome under direct supervision, wearing a biometric suit and monitored by every sensor they had. Inside the dome, Wilder stepped forward slowly. The pup watched, ears twitching. The collar flickered but didn't flare. Hi, Wilder said softly. You're really pretty. The pup's head dropped. A low whimper escaped it. Wilder crossed the last few steps. The collar buzzed but no pulse came. He knelt, reaching out a hand. Kalen, Mira whispered over the intercom, stop him. Kalen's fingers hovered over the abort switch. But he didn't press it. Wilder wrapped his arms around the pup's neck. The collar went dim. The pup slumped into the child's lap, exhaling a deep, shuddering breath. Its eyes closed. Kalen stared as the monitors lit up, heart rate stabilizing, temperature evening out, muscle tension dropping. The creature wasn't dying anymore. It was healing. Wilder looked up. Can we keep him? Kalen let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. No one's keeping anyone, he said. But you just saved its life. The questions came fast. Saracen representatives demanded explanations. Biologists argued over the genetic implications. Theories flooded the comms. Some thought the pup had imprinted on Wilder, others believed the boy's neural patterns were close enough to mimic royal resonances. But none of it mattered as much as what everyone saw. A creature that had been unreachable now lay curled beside a human child, breathing evenly, safe. And for the first time since the crash, the dome was quiet. By the next morning, the dome was surrounded. Not with guards or scientists, but with folding chairs, observation drones, and a queue of curious personnel pretending to check equipment. The pup, now dubbed Rover by Wilder and begrudgingly adopted by the rest of the camp, had become a phenomenon. Not because of its alien nature, but because it now refused to sleep unless Wilder was nearby. Kalen entered the dome at sunrise, rubbing absently at the bandage on his jaw from a drone mishap the night before. Inside, Mira was leaning against a console, her eyes fixed on the readouts. Wilder sat cross-legged beside Rover, humming tunelessly while the creature snored, its bioluminescent tail flicking in faint pulses. He didn't wake up once during the night, Mira said without glancing away. Neither of them did. I had to check twice to make sure they were still breathing. I ran a bioscan at 3, Kalen replied. His vitals sync with the pup's every 90 seconds. It's like they're sharing REM cycles. Is that safe? It isn't not safe. She shot him a look. That's not an answer. Kalen crouched and gently lifted one of Rover's paws. The pads were smoother today, less cracked. The limp had almost vanished. We need to figure out why Wilder's the only one it responds to. You mean before the Saracen delegation arrives and demands we hand over a 6-year-old as a diplomatic asset? They'll be here in 32 hours. Then we need to stall. Rover stirred, lifting its head and blinking sleepily. Wilder yawned, stretched, and tugged on Kalen's sleeve. Can he come outside today? He wants to chase the wind. Mira raised an eyebrow. You got that from a snort and a tail twitch? No, Wilder said. He told me. Kalen hesitated. You mean you heard something? I just know. Mira crouched beside him. Wilder, has he said words to you? No talking. Just feelings. Kalen stood. We'll need to monitor them if they go out. Movement sensors, atmospheric filters. I'll handle the filters, Mira said. You organize the perimeter. An hour later, Rover trotted beside Wilder across the northern flats. The creature's fur had darkened slightly in the daylight, a matte storm gray now that shimmered only when it moved. Sensors tracked every step.
Kalen and Mira followed at a distance, communicating with the camp via subvocal relays. Wilder darted ahead, arms outstretched like wings. Rover bounded after him, barking in a tone that made Kalen's earpiece vibrate. "How's the collar?" Mira asked. "Still dormant. No pulses, no charges. It's like he's bypassing its protocols somehow." Rover skidded to a stop and turned sharply, ears pricking. Wilder froze. "What is it?" Myra's hand dropped to the tranquilizer pistol on her hip. The ground trembled lightly, then again, a rhythmic thumping growing stronger. Kalen turned.
"We've got incoming." A cluster of figures emerged from the western ridge, tall, sinewy, with elongated limbs and glossy skin that shimmered like oil. Their exosuits bore the crest of the Ikari Guild, a group known more for scavenging wrecks than diplomacy. They didn't approach fast, but they didn't stop either. "Unauthorized contact," Kalen muttered, signaling the camp. "I'll intercept." He broke into a jog, Mira close behind. The Ikari stopped when they saw Rover. All 6 of them shifted posture in near-perfect unison, jaws opening slightly to expose their submandibular fangs, a show of curiosity, not aggression. "You are in violation of the Expanse Accord," Kalen called, stopping 10 meters away. Their leader stepped forward, clicking its mandibles. "Heard the crash. Investigating debris. Debris's been claimed under tri-faction salvage law." "You're late. We smell Saracen tech still active." Kalen didn't respond. Rover padded forward, placing itself between Wilder and the Ikari. Its fur began to rise along the spine. The lead Ikari tilted its head. "Defensive posture. It recognizes us." Mira stepped forward. "You'll turn around. Now. Or I break one of your legs and mail it to your guild master. Pick which one." The Ikari paused, then gave a low, clicking laugh. "Human threats. Always melodramatic." Rover growled. The sound started in its chest and resonated outward like a low thunderclap. The Ikari flinched. The leader's second lung inflated visibly under its thorax, a sign of agitation. "Let's not escalate," Kalen said. "You've seen what you came for.
Now walk." The Ikari hesitated, then turned without a word. Their retreat was silent, efficient, unnerving. Mira exhaled. "They'll report back. They always do. But now we know Rover recognizes species threats." "That growl wasn't just noise," she said. "It hit me in the ribs, like a pressure wave." Wilder returned to their side, oblivious to the tension. "He doesn't like shiny people." Back at camp, Rover was taken into the low-grav chamber for a full kinetic evaluation. The creature didn't resist. It simply lay on its side while scanners passed over its limbs. Kalen stood behind the glass with Dr. Rinsu, the camp's orthopedic specialist. "I've never seen musculature like this," Rinsu said. "The repair rate is exponential. I'm estimating complete tendon regeneration in under 36 hours. Is that stable? Hard to say. It's like it's rebuilding from a blueprint that's not in its DNA. More like a remote imprint." "You think Wilder's triggering it?" "I think the pup is syncing to him like a living backup drive." That night, the camp went into lockdown. A meteorite storm passed unnaturally close to planetary orbit, disrupting communications. Rover paced the dome restlessly. Wilder sat awake, drawing strange glyphs in the condensation on the walls. Mira entered quietly. "He hasn't slept." Kalen didn't look away from the monitors. "Neither has Rover." Wilder looked up. "Something's coming." "Storm's already overhead," Mira said. "No," Wilder whispered. "Not weather." At 3 hours past midnight, the perimeter alarms triggered. A single ship descended without transponder codes, sleek, obsidian black, and utterly silent. It landed 1 click south of the wreck, folding its landing struts like an insect crouching to pounce. Kalen armed himself. "That's not a Saracen vessel." Mira checked the biometric logs. "It's not a carry either. No signatures match. The ship didn't move. No hatches opened. No signals transmitted." By dawn, it was still there. Wilder stood by the dome's edge, Rover beside him. Both stared in the direction of the ship. "He knows them," Wilder said. "Who does?" Mira asked. "The ship." Rover made a quiet, breathy sound that wasn't quite a bark. Not fear. Not joy. Something colder.
Wilder stepped back. "I think they're here for him," he said, but not in a good way. The black ship remained motionless for nearly an hour after touchdown. Not a hiss of hydraulics, not a flicker of energy discharge. The camp's perimeter sensors failed to register its landing until Mira manually recalibrated the southern array, which had inexplicably logged a clear sky. Kalen stood at the western observation post, helmet visor down, rifle held loosely across his chest. "Any movement?" Myra's voice buzzed in his ear, low and steady. "Nothing. No atmospheric displacement. And the hull's not reflecting any light. It's absorbing it. Like it doesn't want to be seen. Or like it wants to be remembered wrong." Inside the containment dome, Wilder watched without blinking. Rover stood beside him, legs stiff, the ridge along its back rippling in subtle waves. The creature's pupils had narrowed to slits and its breathing slowed to one inhale every 12 seconds. Not fear. Not aggression. Stillness like a wire pulled taut. Mira entered the dome without suiting up. She crouched beside her son, resting one hand gently on his shoulder.
"Do you recognize it from something you saw in Rover's mind?" Wilder shook his head slowly. "No, but he does. And he's angry. Angry at them? At himself." Outside, a rectangular seam split open along the side of the ship. A ramp unfurled silently, revealing an interior so black it seemed to swallow the light around it. Then 3 figures descended. Each wore a dull red membrane suit that clung to their bodies like stretched wax. Their faces were partially obscured by translucent veils that shimmered with internal static. No insignias, no weapons, no comms equipment. The lead figure was taller by a full head, and its steps were unnaturally fluid, like joints weren't where they should be. Kalen activated the external hail protocol. "You've landed on a secured tri-faction research zone. Identify yourselves." The figures kept approaching. 20 paces. 15. 10. He flipped the safety off. "Final warning. Stop or you'll be detained under Article 41 of..." The lead figure raised one hand. Not flat-palmed. Not threatening. Just lifted it, as if brushing dust from the air. Kalen's visor glitched. For half a second, the entire HUD blinked out. When it returned, the figures were gone. He spun. Nothing on thermal. Nothing on motion. Then Myra's voice cut in sharp. "They're in the dome." Kalen sprinted. Inside, the 3 figures stood just inside the entrance. The air around them shimmered subtly, the way heat rises off pavement. Wilder moved instinctively between them and Rover. The pup didn't growl, didn't attack, just stared at the tall one. "Don't touch him," Mira said, stepping forward. The lead figure turned to her. His veil shifted slightly. Beneath it, the glimmer of a face that wasn't built for symmetry. Eyes too wide apart, a nose that faded into cheekbone, a mouth that pulsed with faint light instead of lips. It spoke, not aloud. The sound bloomed behind their ears, like memory. "Custodian has failed." Wilder's eyes widened. "You're not Saracen," Mira said. "No, they borrowed from us." Kalen entered then, weapon raised. "Step back." The figure didn't move. Instead, it turned its face toward Rover. Protocol incomplete. Genetic bond destabilized. Rover stood, tail stiff, body lean. His collar glowed for the first time in days. But not red. Not defensive. Blue. Mira stepped between the figure and the pup. "You're not taking him." "Correction, we must." "You're not listening." "We do not require permission." Wilder walked forward. Mira tried to stop him, but he slipped past her easily. He stood in front of the tall figure and looked up. "He chose me." The figure didn't respond. "You said he failed." But he didn't. He kept everything he was supposed to protect, even if it's not alive anymore. The figure tilted its head, then glanced at Rover. "Risk vectors exceed threshold. Anomaly must be nullified." "You want to kill him," Kalen said. "We must erase the bond." "No," Wilder said. The figure looked down at him again. "You are not compatible." "You're wrong." The collar flared. Rover's body tensed, and for a moment the air crackled with static. Then the pup stepped forward, placing itself between Wilder and the figure. Suddenly, the dome lights flickered. Every sensor on the monitors overloaded at once. Temperature dropped by 5 degrees.
Rover opened its mouth and released a sound that didn't register on any human frequency. Still, everyone felt it. A pressure behind the eyes. A high, lancing tone that made vision blur. The figure stumbled back. Then it dissolved. Not exploded. Not vanished. Dissolved. Like smoke drawn into a vacuum. The other two figures froze. Then turned. And walked back out of the dome. The ramp to the ship retracted before they reached it. The ship rose without propulsion, shivering slightly as if uncertain of itself, and then lifted silently into the sky. Kalen lowered his weapon. Did that thing just unmake itself? Rover did something, Mira said. Something final. Wilder sat cross-legged again beside the pup, who curled around him. He said they weren't allowed to break the rules, but they tried anyway. 3 hours later, the Saracen delegation arrived. 5 dignitaries in mirror gray robes, their expressions unreadable. They were shown the crash files, the collar data, and the incident logs. Kalen stood with Mira and Wilder as the lead diplomat. A silver-eyed woman with a vertical scar across her chin examined Rover through the glass. "He should not remain active," she said. "He's not yours anymore," Mira replied. "He was never yours." "No," Kalen said, "but neither was he yours to abandon." The diplomat turned to Wilder. "You bonded with him?" Wilder nodded. The diplomat studied him for a long moment. Then, to everyone's surprise, she bowed. "Then by the laws of the Ninth Code, he is yours to keep." Mira stared. "That's it? We do not reclaim those who have chosen exile. He has made his bond. He will not survive another." Kalen folded his arms. "And the ship that landed? Not ours. They were remnants. Custodians of old codes. We stopped using their programming cycles a century ago. Then why did they show up? They never stopped believing." By the next morning, the containment dome was dismantled. Rover now had a dedicated habitat near the southern ridge, with temperature controls and a retractable roof. Wilder visited every day after his lessons with the camp's xenolinguist. The pup followed him everywhere, even sleeping outside their quarters at night. The collar remained dim. It no longer responded to scans. Whatever protocol it once followed had been permanently overwritten. Kalen stood beside Mira as they watched the boy and the creature chase each other through the open field, the wind tugging at their clothes, the sun high above. "Still think we should have kept him behind glass?" he asked. Mira shook her head. "He's not a specimen. He's a survivor." Kalen glanced at her. "Wilder or Rover?" "Both." Rover paused mid-run and turned back, ears flicking forward. He barked once, short and sharp. Wilder laughed and ran toward him again. Kalen watched them until the sun began to dip. "Some things don't need decoding," he said. "They just need to be trusted." Mira didn't answer. She just smiled, the kind that didn't need translation.